What is good, my peeps? We got another round of ProRevenge coming at you today. Let's get into it. Cheat on me? I'll get my revenge. Little backstory. I was married when I was 18. She was 16. Yeah, I knocked her up. But we had been together for over a year. Neither parents were upset. It was actually her second time being pregnant. She had a son when she was 15. We got married and ended up having 3 more kids together over the next 10 years. This is where it all started going downhill. After the last kid, she decided to have her tubes tied. I was on board and all was good. About 6 months after my son was born, the company I was working for took off and I was put in charge of the paint department, prefab steel buildings. I started working about 80 hours a week trying to get everything up and running. Took about 4 months of this and my hours dropped back to normal, around 50 hours. During this 4 months I was away, my marriage started falling apart. I was hit with a "you're never home anymore" while she had her hand out for the paycheck, of course. Started hearing rumors about her and one of her coworkers. It wasn't the first time she had cheated on me, so it didn't surprise me at all. I didn't tell her my hours went back to normal, and I showed up home early to find her and this dude naked on my couch. I freaked out. He went through the front window butt naked. She grabbed a knife and in a scuffle I got stabbed in the arm. Neighbors seen this naked dude fly through the window, hop in his car and speed away, so they called the cops. I'm standing there bleeding like a pig, and I get arrested for domestic violence. I never touched her, by the way. I get down to the police station after they wrap up my arm with a kit they had and book me in. They take my statement and look confused. Fast forward about an hour later and they release me and all charges dropped. Thank God. We ended up getting divorced. All in all, it was amicable, with good visitation and everything was good. Found out exactly 3 days after the divorce, she married the guy she was cheating with. I was still mad and it dawned on me how to get revenge. Fast forward about 6 months, she had stopped by my apartment one afternoon to talk. Yep, it was time. I used every nicety I could find, played the game, got her in bed. Had every kind of nasty sex I could think of. After we were laying in bed and she was telling me how bad the marriage was and she wanted to come back to me, blah blah blah, I turned over, looked her straight in the eye. Nah, I got what I wanted, now go home to your husband. What she didn't realize is, during the encounter, I had grabbed her phone and dialed her husband and just let it set on the dresser so he could hear everything. She got up, got dressed and grabbed her phone, looked at the screen and went white. I just smiled as she ran out of the house. The guy did divorce her over it. Revenge is sweet. All my kids are grown and out of the house now, and I'm remarried to a wonderful woman who I love with all my heart. I hear the ex and her ex-husband are back together again and got remarried about a year ago. Too bad I love my wife. I get revenge again. Finally, an actual believable story with content. It's amazing. Look after my kids. Again. Back when I was a teenager, my aunt would ask me to babysit her kids. It didn't happen often, so I really didn't mind as long as she bought me pizza, and her 2 children were well behaved. Anyway, she was a divorcee, and after a couple of years she remarried. His 2 kids were alright as well, and I didn't mind babysitting for them when they asked me to about 3 months after their wedding. This is when it starts going downhill. Firstly, no pizza. Second, they came home 3 hours later than they said they would and didn't give me a lift home. I'm 16 at this point and a very big guy, so no worries walking home, but it was about 2 a.m. in the morning. Then they started to take advantage. Almost every week they wanted me to look after their kids, for no pay, and would get extremely pissy about it if I refused. Often having a go at my mother who would cry. I hated that. Fine. So they called me to look after their kids so they could go and do their regular. Well, I'll be home by 10, but we mean 1 a.m. Me, okie dokie. I rocked up, sure enough, no food aside from the kids' dinner. I raided their fridge. Then, at about midnight, I woke the kids up, took them into the lounge and put on a video. They were a little confused, but excited to be up at the time. I then gave each of them a Red Bull and a packet of lollies. About 20 minutes later, the parents showed up and I left. They never asked me to babysit for them again. Apparently they shouted at my mother and Dad told me off, but he couldn't stop laughing, so I wasn't in too much trouble. You want to take advantage of me? Fine. Let's show these kids how to really bounce off the walls. Guy flips me off, parks in handicap, and gets sweet karma. The cast: JC, jerk customer. MOD, manager on duty. Me. So where to start? I work at a major hardware retailer in the next town over. Said workplace is about 15 minutes from my house and takes 2 roads to get there. I'm on my way to work as usual and going 53 and a 50. I would go faster, but the cops in my area tend to pull you over when you go 51. When all of a sudden, jerk customer in his piece of shit truck decides I'm not going fast enough and decides to pass me at 65 miles an hour. And he crossed a double yellow line to do so. Not only did this guy pass me at insane speeds for that street, he also gave me the bird while doing so. I'm mad, but I have a pretty good idea where he's going, since one of the only businesses on that road is the place where I work. Sure enough, when I arrive at work, I see his ugly green rusted truck in the parking lot. But not just in any space. Oh no, he was in the front most handicapped spot. I knew this guy was not handicapped, as there were no place cards or stickers to indicate that he was allowed to park there. I'm pretty pissed off at this point because he could not bother to wait a whole 30 extra seconds to get there. I walk in the door, not expecting to do anything or to have the issue resolved. Then I see my manager standing at the door greeting customers. Bingo. Hey manager, how are you today? Doing great, how are you? Great, thanks for asking. Hey, you see that green truck parked in the handicapped spot? Yeah. He is parked there illegally. Don't we enforce that by towing people? Yeah, we do, but I'm not going to worry about it. Well, I think we should. Why? Explains that he passed me and gave me the bird. Manager says that she will deal with it and proceeded to call the towing company. I don't hear anything for a while and clock in and head to my register. Then I hear screaming from the front door. Jerk customer is screaming and running towards his truck, which is about 75% loaded onto the tow truck. He then comes back into the building where he starts cussing out my manager and saying that we had no right to do that. The whole time I'm sitting there with a shit-eating grin on my face and enjoying the front row seats to the show. Manager, I'm sorry, but you did park illegally and we reserve all right to tow vehicles parked illegally on our property. F you. Well, next time don't flip off my associates. I don't think he got the idea of what he did and that I was the guy he flipped off, but he definitely learned his lesson about parking illegally. I hope. I later heard that he called the store demanding that the associate that reported him was fired immediately, but they dismissed his call because it was not directed toward his experience and was a result of his own actions. I love it when someone just flies by you and then gets stopped at a stoplight and you just come creeping up all slow like, oh hey, how's it going, man? Glad you could get here 20 seconds before I did. Sell me a sick pet? I'll shut down your business. Hello everyone, I'm new to this sub after finding it on YouTube, and I'm on mobile. The story happened to my family, but is mainly my dad enacting the revenge. The story happened a few months ago in October. My father, sister, and I had been looking to find a baby bearded dragon, basically a chubby cuddly lizard for those not familiar, to buy/adopt. For Thanksgiving weekend, we traveled several hours from our home to visit family and came across a small reptile shop in their small town. By some miracle, their baby beardies were also on sale and had a selection of about a dozen. So skipping past some details, we adopted a baby beardie, bought all the essentials for travel in the shop, and we got to have a nice long talk and exchange of contacts with the store owner, important for later. Fast forward 3 weeks, we love our baby. His name is Pancake, and he is doing well. Or so we thought. Some odd things started to happen over the course of that time. He ate a lot less than expected. Baby beardies are supposed to eat a lot as their tiny bodies rapidly grow. But Pancake would eat only some food and very slowly. We thought this was odd and took him to a vet. The vet took a good look at him and concluded that he was fine, just to make sure he kept eating and gained weight. Because of this, there was no further testing. We kept in contact with the seller this whole time, who said basically the same thing. The weeks went on and we thought he was just a little odd. But it all climaxed one weekend, Saturday. We spend pretty much all day with Pancake, but he isn't feeling too good. He is tired all day, lazy, and falling asleep constantly. I take him with me to my room to spend playtime with him, but he is lethargic. We think he is only tired and didn't sleep well. Sunday, he's still acting strange. He isn't eating or drinking. He's barely moving. We check all the reptile vets in our area. None are open on weekends. We worry about him and go to our local lizard store. They are helpful and tell us it is likely he is just constipated and to wait it out. And with our care, highly unlikely of anything serious like parasites. We arrive home, relieved and excited to see him. He is dying. He takes his last breaths in my father's hands. For days we are struck with sadness. I don't think I ever cried so much before or seen my father do so either. Not only was he my dream pet, but we all loved him so much. It's 3 days after his death, and from here, the story is my father's revenge. He talks to the seller, mourning his baby's death to him. The seller seems sad as well. It is 5 days after his death. The seller sends a string of messages. He talks about how several other of his sold and unsold beardies had also died during the 3 weeks we had Pancake. He says that all of them had consistent signs of parasites while they were in his care and sold. He says that all of them seemed to be dying the same way. He says he didn't want to tell us because we might want a refund. My dad is enraged, and rightfully so. Not only was the cost of medicine for parasites extremely cheap, and Pancake's life could have been saved, but this asshole of a man was selling baby reptiles that he knew were highly likely sick to families all because he wanted money off them. Over the following days and weeks, my father does research. He reads thoroughly on our area and town's laws surrounding breeding and selling exotic animals. It is 2 weeks after he died. My dad files a lawsuit against the seller for selling an animal with compromised health when he guaranteed us the sale of a healthy reptile. He files several claims with our area's animal protective services with our case of Pancake and the other poor families. Utilizing our bill from the vet, videos of him eating poorly, screenshots of his messages, and other things he could dig up, it turns out his store has a website, and on that website is a list of all the reptiles he has sold, followed by a family photo and a link to a social media owned by whoever adopted the pet. So, being enraged by this man's treatment of animals, my dad contacted all 8 people who were sold baby reptiles infested with parasites. Only 3 of them had reptiles that were still alive, and I'm glad to say they remain that way with the proper medication once warned by my dad. Now, I don't have all the details on the lawsuit and Animal Protection Services claims, since he's my father and I'm a child, but I do know the outcomes. Mainly, his business being utterly destroyed. Not only did he have to compensate the 9 families he sold sick reptiles to, and more so the 6 that had died, but he also had some heavy-duty fines. It turns out he was breeding crickets, reptile food, really badly and unsafely, leading to some even heavier fines. And being that this was a small business, it was enough to totally crush it. The last I have heard from this guy was a few weeks ago from my uncle, who we went to for Thanksgiving when we got Pancake. He updated us on how the reptile store is no longer there and a for sale sign has been up for months with no buyers. Serves him right. That's just messed up, man. If you're gonna be doing that, you need to know how to do it. You're doing unfair business, you're gonna get shut down. And that's how mafia works. Alright everyone, smash like if you enjoyed these stories. Let me know in the comments what you think. We'll see you all next time. Peace.